I don't know, I hadn't a clue what paras were, but they were the smartest looking troops. High brown boots, maroon berets, and they looked good. And I said, anybody that can look that good, that's for me. So I joined the paras.
I guess we felt because we were different from the rest of the Army, that we were, strong to use the word special, but it's probably true. We were different, and we felt it, and we felt a sense of pride.
We were trained, and we were so confident of ourselves. I mean, there was no way that nobody could touch us, really. You know, we weren't afraid of anything.
A small army of daredevils gets ready to jump. Their job is to act as shock troops, capture an airfield, seize a position, or disrupt communications in the rear of the enemy. Yes, they're tough, mighty tough, and the best.
I was with the First Canadian Parachute Battalion. I'm originally from Moncton, New Brunswick.
Toronto. I was one of the rare breeds that was born and raised in Toronto and in the East End. Mm-hmm.
Oh, a little village out in Saskatchewan called Lashburn. Yeah, that's about maybe 300 people.
Welland Junction, farming community. I, as a farm boy, didn't know anything about military history, nothing. Farming, that's about it.
I'd led a rather sheltered life in Toronto, and the joy to me was that for the first time I was dealing with men from British Columbia, from Alberta, from Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and right to the Maritimes.
They asked for volunteers to go airborne, and 20 of us volunteered, but they cut it right down to 6 of us.
41 volunteered, but only 2 were accepted. And they put you through physical tests and mental examinations to determine if, recognizing that you were a paratrooper and could be dropped behind the lines, whether you had enough independence of knowledge and spirit to be able to survive on your own.
They were looking for some brain power, but the main thing was physical drive and initiative. And they had all kinds of ways of measuring it. Psychologists would put together a series of questions and so on about your mother and father, and particularly your family background.
Stupid questions, you know, all, did you pee the bed? You know, what's that got to do with it, you know? So when he finished with me, he said, you would make a good paratrooper. I said, that sounds good. And I didn't know what the paratrooper was even. I soon found out.
From the time you got up in the morning until you went to bed at night, you trained, that's it. Constantly, 24 hours a day.
Toughest part?
Yeah.
I don't think there was any easy part to it, you know. I was fortunate because working on a farm, my legs were strong.
One time I yawned during a lecture, and they made me do 50 push-ups during the break. It was ridiculous, like, you know.
You could do 15 miles on the hot prairie sun, and the sergeant say, hey, why don't you go over there in the truck and get some water? And if you did, you'd be out.
When you get to the point where you're doing jumps off the tower, you'd hear people in the hut there screaming at night, just having nightmares. You know, they didn't like that. That was worse than jumping in a plane, I think.
First time I was up in an airplane, I had to jump out of it. After the first one, the second one was the worst because you knew what was coming.
There was an aperture, a 3-foot aperture in the floor. When you push off, make sure you're trying to hit the center of the hole and look up. When all you do, don't look down. The natural thing to do, everyone, is to look down. But if you look down, your face is going to hit the other side of the turret, what they call ring the bell. That was it. You're going to ring the bell.
Lots of broken noses and bleeding noses.
You'd hit your nose on the other side, and me with my big nose, it's quite possible.
No, we didn't have reserve chutes in England. Your jump was so low you wouldn't have time to use a second chute.
The British didn't believe in the reserve. Number one, it took up too much room on the pack. The space could be better used for weapons and equipment. So the Canadians were a little shocked to only get one.
When you jump out, all this noise is gone. All you hear is the wind. And we come in fairly fast onto the ground, onto the drop zone. And I hurt my legs a little bit, but I was too stupid to say anything, because if you did, they kicked you out. I saw 2 or 3 that didn't open in training. A couple of days after, you may go over to see where they landed, and all you could see was an indentation in the ground where they hit the ground. That's it. But they covered it up pretty good. And after the first day, you didn't talk about it at all.
I was given my wings, and it was a sense of considerable joy and pleasure that I was now joining this special group, the First Canadian Parachute Battalion, and the pride of that unit to never let anybody down. When somebody says, this is the mission, this is the target, you go, that's it. There's nothing you could do to hold them back.
June 6th, 1944, and the greatest armada in military history is assembled in England for an assault on Hitler's fortress Europe. The Allied forces have nearly 3 million troops trained for the assault.
We were going into Normandy. That was the objective on D-Day. Our mission was to go in ahead of the beaches. We were given the area around Varaville, about 20 miles in from the beach, to establish a defensive position, to destroy bridges, to take over various crossroads, to destroy every hope of the Germans from reinforcing the troops they already had.
To stop the counterattack?
To stop any counterattack. You are there without support. You fight with whatever you land with, and it's dangerous.
They got the word to go. We loaded the plane, and then they headed for the coast.
I was most apprehensive about the jump on D-Day because we had not had any experience at jumping in the dark, in absolute black. And this was going to be a midnight drop.
Well, it was awful quiet on the plane. There was nobody talking or nothing. It was just one guy looking at the other. That's about it.
Co-pilot coming back and saying, you know, we're 3 minutes to the drop zone. The red light came on, which is stand up and hook up. So everybody stood up and hooked up. So now it's getting pretty serious.
We stand up, hook up, check the guys shoot in front, form a line, and wait for the green light to come on. Now, doing this, we're coming into France. You can see out the window. Now, all of a sudden, you see fireworks up ahead, and then you realize it's not fireworks, it's a gun shooting.
Some of the planes got shot down. Some got bullet holes in them. Just, that's all. You see the little holes.
They took evasive action. They lost where they were supposed to go. The pilot, to get back to England, he had to get rid of the Paris, so he just put the light on and we all jumped out.
The green light comes on and the word comes from everywhere, go.
I was number 1, so you stand at the door. What happened, the plane went like that, tilted. Anyway, I fell out, and everybody else followed me.
I remember I was about 6 or 7 miles away from where I was supposed to be, so I don't know where the other guys landed. Never saw them again.
It was the most widely scattered drop in history. Everyone was scattered hells and half acres over miles. And the Germans flooded vast areas.
If a guy landed over a drainage ditch, he went down 7 feet, he never come up. So we lost a few that way.
When I landed, I thought at that was the highest tree in France. As I'm trying to get out of my parachute, and I can't get out because I'm hanging straight down like this. And then I heard some noise, mumbling, looked like a German patrol to me, below me. They're walking. In fact, some of them pointed up to me. I just, still as a mouse. And it kept going. Never bothered with me at all, for some reason.
I could hear somebody walking around. And I figured, holy jeez, I just got here and they're really looking for me already. Anyway, I hurried up and got my rifle out. And then I heard him, he walked to another tree or bush, whatever it was. So I said, well, it's going to be him or me, so I better go after him. So I went to where he'd been, and I waited there, and then he moved again. So I went to the other place where he'd been, and then he didn't move anymore. So I figured, well, so I said, well, this is it. So I went out to see if I could get him, and it turned out it was a cow. So the sweat stopped running down my back.
And it took hours to finally get 2 men, 3 men, 4 men in a group. We were pretty relieved to be able to see daylight and look around, and, you know, I recognized the people I was with, you know. Even though they were not my platoon, they were lost. You just simply said to them, this is the mission, this is the target, let's go.
Were you scared?
All the time. If you say you weren't scared, you're lying. You're on your own. Do what you can. If they got through us, they could go right to the beaches.
Warships lay down a withering barrage, and it's the beginning of the end for Hitler's dreams of world conquest. And wave after wave hits the beach. Casualties were heavy in those early hours, but the Allies were on their way to Berlin.
The troops were targets coming off the boats, and our job was to stop the Germans from coming from the east.
Our job was to get the Orange Bridge so that the Germans couldn't cross it.
We were blowing bridges on the Deves River.
Now, B Company's main mission was to destroy the bridge at Robeholm. The main demolition was to be done by British engineers who were there with us. And they blew the thing, and the whole thing crashed into the river. That's it.
After the bridges and all the objectives were taken, they were to retreat back to Lemannille, a crossroads, set up a defense position and prepare for a German attack.
We dug in, and we fought there at Lemannille, the crossroads at Lemannille, for over a week, and it was tough. It was the first experience we had with German snipers. They were deadly accurate. You couldn't get up and wander around or rattle your mess tent or something because you're as good as dead.
I know I had a friend of mine, he took his helmet off like this. And first thing you know, he was on the ground dead. A sniper hit him right to the head, right in the forehead. He just, done.
June 12th came along, and the Germans were determined to break through to the beach. 700 German regiment men put in an attack with tank and a self-propelled 88 gun.
It was the main battle that we had, and it was tough. The adrenaline is flowing like unbelievable. It was some real serious fighting.
The main thing is, don't let your buddies down. That's the main thing. So that's what we live for.
3 tanks came up, and they were Sherman tanks. We were pretty pleased. Say, hey, we can't lose now. We got 3 tanks with us. As the first one came up in front of us, he was just about dead in front of us, and he was turning his turret when he went up in flames. The other one came up behind him, started to turn his turret. He went up in flames, and the third one. So we had 3 burning tanks in a row. They never fired one shot.
It doesn't stick in your mind they're killing people, but in the back of your mind there is something that's going on that you don't know. Because I was not put this earth to kill people. And kind of, but you don't get used to it, you get hardened to it. You know what you have to do. It's either you're going to get killed or he's going to get killed. And I don't want to get killed.
The brigadier ordered the signal to the coast that we needed shelling, and he gave the coordinates.
It was quite a satisfaction to hear those Allied shells going overhead, because you got to the point that you could identify them pretty quickly. Say, they're ours.
They got the Germans on the open. The whole 700 of them, I don't know how many were killed, but most of them were caught out in the open by the shelling and took the heart right out of them.
It had to be held, but it was done. We did our job.
After a few days, we certainly were reinforced by troops from the beaches that came up, and that was a big help. Now we were dealing with Hamilton Light Infantry, Essex Scottish, any number, Winnipeg Rifles, all kinds of Canadian troops, and that was a great satisfaction that they had landed on the beach successfully and were coming up. And of course they felt that we'd been doing some heroic task, which was nice to have that camaraderie.
We had 340-some casualties on D-Day from the time we were in there till we come out.
That's out of 600 men.
Yeah.
It was sad, and in some ways shocking, really, that the drop was responsible for such a loss. And at the other hand, it was quite remarkable that a handful of men dropped in the middle of the night into Normandy, wherever the hell they knew, were able to make their way around to join up with others and finally get to the objective. and accomplish it. It's just unbelievable. And that's what happened.
If we failed our mission, then I truly believe that the invasion would have been finished. They'd have never made it.
But you did fulfill your mission.
Yep, every one of them. All the airborne fulfilled their missions. So it's a hard thing, but you can talk to a lot of people. If you've not been in a war, you don't know what it's like. You know, it's worth $1 million, but I wouldn't do it for $2.